Hello there. Well, it's Fiona from Weekly Sewing Me. I'm here, honestly. And I wanted to do a beginner's guide to patchwork quilts. Everyone wants to do them, but they don't want to make a mistake. There's a lot of work involved, don't they? So I'm doing a beginner's guide. And the thing about patchwork quilts is it's your patchwork quilt, so don't be too hard on yourself. You know, if you've got one square that's the wrong way round, please don't worry, because it's life, it's fine. I like them to be individual. Okay, so I've moaned now. Alright. Okay, I'm doing a patchwork quilt that's going to be for a cot from Moses Basket. It's going to be tiny, but the reason I'm doing that is for the video and for twins, friend, not me. Yes. So lay your pieces out. That's great. Now, if you're making a quilt and you're putting in like clothing, like baby grow or anything, then that's fine. Just put them surrounded by cotton is great, so that they hold their shape. And if you put them on a piece of fabric, then you can roll it up and you can put it away. Okay, because that's the thing, isn't it? Not everybody has space where they can leave things out. Alright, my second top tip is that if you cut, it's probably about 10 layers there, then by the time you get to the bottom one, it's going to spew out at an angle, so you're going to get that sort of shape, which has got a bit of a kick. So if you haven't got a roller, that's fine. If you don't want to buy one, or if you want to buy one, then be aware that you can buy stationary ones which are the same, but you can get them smaller, you can get them just sort of ruler size, and you can get them cheaper. Are we allowed to say cheaper? We are. Okay, so this is really simple. It's going to be 4 of these squares by 6. And it's just going to be alternative. So yeah, I think if you're going to do mixed pattern squares, then darker in one corner going out to the light. And if you are doing mixed pattern squares, then that's lovely. And, you know, just take your time and enjoy it, really, because that's what it's supposed to be. Okay, yeah. So I find the easiest way is I get my squares, oh, and I have my machine set up to go, honestly, and I'm going to sew it like this. Okay, watch out for bobbin threads getting caught up and everything else like that. So I get my squares and right side to right side. It might be too small. Yeah, so rotary cutters, excellent. You can do them with just scissors. And you can use pinking shears as well. So, you know, it's entirely up to you. And then, so if I'm doing a 6x4, I need to do 48 of these. 48? I don't know. Anyway, I need to do quite a few. So, if you see a square that looks slightly out of line, then I'm going to do it in the sewing. This is because I can, but you will find that the better they are sewn, the better they're cut, the easier they are to sew. So lovely. Now I need to sit here and do this. Lovely. My machine's far too loose. I don't know what I was sewing before, but it's far too loose. And then I can sew all these squares together so that I will have strips of 4, and then those strips of 4 I can sew together, and then I will have a 4x6. So open them out. I'm using stripes. It's up to you whether you keep them alternate or not, or whether you even worry. You know, this is it. I find that truly organic quilts have a better thing. So yeah, watch that your squares are staying the same. And I'll just do one more just to do this sewing together, and then I'm going to come back to you. Lovely. So I'm going to now open them out to strips, and you can see that I've deliberately not made them straight, because this is what I want to translate to you. And I'm going to alternate, and then I'm going to sew again, and each of these corners I'm going to lay together, and then I'm going to sew to that. Now there's a lot to be said for setting your seams at each stage. Now, setting your seams is you iron it, basically, and then you can iron your seams nice and flat, and the end product will look neater. But the neater you can get it at every stage, then the neater the end result will be. So, lovely. East coming. So we can stretch that out, and what I'd do is I'd sew all the lines together, and then I'd sew all the bits together. So we're getting there, aren't we? That one is the wrong way around. I know, it's terrible, all this talking and I don't concentrate. So you can see where I'm going with this, and you can see the overall size, because that is now getting there. Yeah, so it's nice and small. I'm going to be able to do this video, and you're still going to be able to upload it. Alright, thank you. So, hello there. Okay, now I've got my squares in one piece, and that's nice. And I just wanted to do borders next. So I've got my border strips. You're going to have to imagine this is really long, but it's a good idea to have one of these, just a dummy one, beside you, so you can remember your angles. So I'm sure we've all been told exactly, so it's like a diamond shape. I did have a little ruler thing here, actually. I don't know how I'll do it, just so that it's done. So I've got a square, fold it like that, and then it's always this long line we're sewing on when we're thinking about borders, and we can use this as a little measure as well. So I've got my two pieces of cloth, and I have put them at a nice right angle, and I am going to sew. Woohoo! I might not be, actually, that was a bit sharp, wasn't it? And I'm going to sew on a diagonal. I have extended my border, okay? I've extended my border. Now, I want nice sharp corners. Actually, I'm going to cut that so it doesn't pull. So I've got my two pieces, and this is continuing on. And I have lost my green post-it note, and I am going to sew. Sorry, so I've got my 2 pieces, this is continuing on, and I am going to sew from this corner to this corner. Lovely, and then that's going to be a nice sharp rectangle. Okay, so yes, I'm going to leave that there just in case I need to check back on it, because I might do. And I've got my strips of border. It's the same with your squares, whatever you're happy with, although there's a lot to be said for utilising the most of your material. So these are kind of like a standard size, so that they have used the most of the material. Okay, so got a bit for my corner. I'm going to sew. It's that simple, really. It's just now, do whatever hem allowance you're happy with. You know, if that's quite a small hem allowance, then that's fine, but you've got to do that all the way around. One thing to do is not to pull it as well. So idea to check your work at every stage. So true with patchwork quilts, the neater the better. Lovely. So we have got our corner piece here, and to do a corner I am going to lie these next to each other and sew from there to there. You know, if I'm unsure before I start, then I can always check. In fact, it would be better if I open it out, really. Lovely, making sure I've got my hem allowance. But these two should just lay on top of each other, and then you just sew. Now, it is best to do all your borders and then do all your corners, but such is life. We're working through, aren't we? Now I'm going to line that up and I'm just going to sew again. Literally that simple. So I suppose the next step is for me to switch the camera off and get to the next stage, which is a lot more interesting. I think there'll be a lot more information for you. So, can you see okay? Yeah, I can see fine. Alrighty. Lovely, quilt part 2. So hello there. I have now done this. I know I haven't tidied it up, but this is okay. This is okay. And I don't really know the next place to go. What I have here is some squares. Now we have 2 choices. We can sew it and then fold it inside out, which is what I'm going to do, which I believe is the easiest. Or we can do our pattern now and then do binding. So let's come back to that. Okay, so we're going to do the turning inside out option. So we're going to lay our quilt out flat and we're going to lay our lining that we need, that we've chosen, and pull this all tight. Now you can pin this, there's no reason why not. And get that all happy and caught up on the table. And then I'm going to put my quilting fabric over the top. So that's me. Now I've had no problem ever sewing with the quilting fabric on the outside. So obviously I would recommend that you maybe cut it before we do it, but I'm not going to. So, and now I'm going to sew, and I have this right side to right side and then the quilting fabric on the other side, and I'm literally just going to sew round. I might not. So lovely. You know, I've never ever had a problem. I shouldn't say that just before I start sewing. And then I'm going to turn it inside out, because the binding option is great, and I will show you why I don't use the binding option when we get to that stage. Okay. Now you'd think I'd check, wouldn't you? Yeah, if you hear any funny noises, we are just about to have a storm, so it won't be too bad, but you know, yesterday it hailed, rattled the windows, it did. So lovely. When we're all ready, we are going to start sewing, and keep this as straight as possible and make sure you've got everything that you need. Let's get this all lined up again. I would put a couple of pins in it, because of the weight of the quilt will keep just moving everything around. You've got to be careful as well that you don't stretch the wadding. And there we go. I'm just going to give it a little tug and keep it all straight. Make sure I've got nothing caught up on the back. just the last one to do. I never know when to switch the camera on and when to switch the camera off, but what I don't want is to miss a point. So, oh, of course. I'm so stupid. So I've left a bit for me to turn it inside out, but before I turn it inside out, I am going to just trim off all this excess, and I'm going to knock everything on the floor as well. Oh gosh, I'm really under attack here. Okay, so if you can just bear with me. Yes, if the camera wasn't on, I would stand up and just do it on the bed. Yeah, but I will. Yeah, cutting, best to keep it as flat as possible. Give yourself a fighting chance. And always make sure if you're doing it this way, then you leave a hole for turning it inside out. No idea why this is so hard. There we are. So that can go away. And this does work for the big quilts as well, but I just find it easier. And then we will sew up this little bit here by folding it in. What I'll probably do is I'll pinch that in. Quite easy to do, usually, and then I will continue that stitch all the way round, and I would stitch there, and then it's up to you whether you stitch the borders or not at all. What I wouldn't stitch the borders, and it's up to you whether you go around the squares. So let's have a look at what we can do on the next step of the patterning. Okay, so I've got, if we were doing it with binding, we would then have this all loose, and we can either do the ziggly line, which is, okay, they're all there. Yes, I will find some teeth and I will tell you what I'm thinking. Okay. So the traditional wavy line is an American, comes across from the long arm, the early long arm. So it's just a line that goes round, and then there's a line next to it that's wiggly, and they're all slightly different. Okay, I suppose in England we go around the pieces, and that's not going to come out actually. And here we go. So I have another foot here, and this is the clasp that holds the foot on, and there is a hole in the top, and then you put that down, and then you can measure, so you can do straight lines. And I can push it in and then turn it. There we go. Because it's flat at the top, or it's flat on one side, and that's just to push it down. So once you've got one line of stitches, this up, push it onto that stitches so that if your wadding's thick enough, then it will keep it straight along the sticky out bit. And it's really good to do. Now, I'm going to put that up, I'm not going to leave it off. If you're doing a large quilt and you're just doing lines, or you're just doing wiggly lines, let's do a wiggly line, then I would recommend that you don't go in the same direction. Let me see if this is going to do it. I've got a nice loose thread, so it probably isn't going to do it. But it will pucker it if you're not careful. And if that happens and you're on a large piece of fabric, then eventually it's going to push your lining all the way out. So if you do it in a kind of zigzag, then all it does is it pushes your fabric, and then it pushes your fabric the other way. So you end up with an okay finish, you know. It's not perfect, but this pushing thing does happen, and it happens, it just happens. So lovely. So we've got our huge double quilt done, and we're just trimming off the ends, and we're going to do some binding. Now I have a binding foot here, and I have some shop bought binding as well. And I knew I'd done it. Everything was on the table, and then I just kicked it off. It was terrible. So here we go. And then this is the same fabric that I used for the border. If you fold it in half and iron along one side, technically you're supposed to do it diagonally along the cloth, so that it's got some give. I find it just wastes so much cloth, so I don't do it. And then if you iron the other side in, so it all folds in, and then you are sewing round like that. So yeah, and it does give a lovely finish, and you can either sew along here, which is the first fold, and they're right side to right side. And then you fold it over, and the iron line is then tucked in, and then you can either sew on the machine or you can hand sew. The hand sewing does look super neat, it really does. I've got to get rid of it, it's quite distracting. There we go. But honestly, your sewing machine kit will have come with one of those, and they're quite brilliant. So there we are. It does look neat. It looks neat to hand sew. Alrighty, so that's binding one way, and I'm just going to re-pinch that and re-pinch this. And I know I should have got myself a bigger bit of cloth, but you know me. Now this is a binding foot. I did buy this separately, it didn't come with my basic model, and you can adjust the size here. I'm just whittling it round, and then you have little holes to place the fabric in. I need a bit bigger. And it's got a little grippy bit so that you can fold it over. I think I just tightened it up again. There we go. So, and you put your fabric in. You might need to make it a bit bigger and then make it a bit smaller. And I'm going to come and see your... So lovely. Here we are. I just keep closing it. It goes around. It's not logical at all. It's not going around the right way. There we go. So it's got little marks on it where it's measured, and then you fold it up again and you place it inside and pull it through slightly. There we are, it's coming through now. And then you need to have your fabric in there and then pull this through and then hold it in there with a pin. So what I normally do is I get the binding set up, then I have the fabric a bit further down, so, and you can see the machine would be sewing away merrily, and then it'll pull through the fabric in between there. So yes, that's the way to do binding, if that's the way you want to do binding. And there's a couple of stitches there really. So what I said I was going to do was I was going to pinch this seam here, and then I was going to sew it closed, and I was going to continue round. Then I would sew here and sew the border on, and then I would decide whether I was going to just go around the squares. I've seen square quilts just with one zigzag, one line across the centre. It really is completely up to you. When you're sewing in between a square, or here we are on the border, you really have to be as accurate as you can. I'm not very accurate, so in a way it's better for me to do some sort of pattern, whether that's straight lines or zigzags or wavy bits. I normally do wavy bits actually. Yes, I know. So yes, we've all seen the fabric. We all love the beautiful fabric that comes out for patchwork, and yes, I think most of us have got in their cupboard the blocks, but we haven't actually backed it or anything. Okay, so that's my guide so far. I'm going to finish it and then I'm going to have a little think and think, what did I miss out? So I went with the diagonals in the end because they are the neatest, and I always find that if you put too many lines in it, then you make your quilt quite flat. Do you believe the noise that this machine is making? Sulking. So lovely. I'm going to leave the needle down and turn the quilt. Lovely. Leave the needle down, turn the quilt. If you're doing big quilts, then you have to roll it to get it underneath the arm. Once you've sewn them, they roll better, so you know it does get easier. It is just one of those things. And then I'm doing my last line here. So there we are, very rough and ready, and yes, non-ironing at each step, so my advice is do iron at each step. And there's the back for you. So even though I've only done a really tiny quilt, yeah, it has puckered, so but because I've gone rather than all that way, then I've managed to correct it each side without worrying. Okay, well, I really hope that this has helped, and I hope you don't think I was rude in suggesting that people have half-finished quilts in their cupboard, just because I do. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you again. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe and please share.